Hi, everybody. My name is Brandon Hull, and you're watching the workshop How to Put Your Business Growth on Autopilot, sponsored by Fluix. I work for Fluix as the head of client development. I'll be your workshop host today, giving you an idea on all of the ways that you can put your business on cruise control, really, to ensure that your sales team and your project teams are working very well together so that everything is automated. You have good oversight over how your company is operating, and everything is on autopilot. There's not a lot of checking in. There's not a lot of manual work that you're doing back and forth with your teams to stay on top of things. You have good oversight in real time on how things are going. And you're doing that because all of the documentation tied to your contracts, to your ongoing projects, is all being managed in a digitized and automated way. So let's dig in here. We're going to get right into things. This is a workshop, so it's going to be a little bit casual. I'm going to show you around and show you a lot of ways that Fluix works to put your business growth on autopilot. We're going to dig right in. Let's talk about the agenda as we get started here first. So we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose of the workshop itself. We're going to talk about how you can turn your field sales team into a digital sales team. A lot of remodeling teams, HVAC teams, plumbing sales teams, pest control teams. I mean, you name it. A lot of contractors, their sales teams are having to work digitally right now. They're working from home a little bit, working face-to-face with customers as well, and making sure that you've got that team equipped to handle both of those situations is important. So we're going to talk about how your team can use Fluix and can work in a more automated way, whether or not they're face-to-face with customers. How you can also have real-time oversight as the sales manager, service manager, or as the CEO of your small business. We're going to show you ways that you can stay on top of everything going on with your team, even the things that are in the works that are not even yet finalized. We're going to show you that as well. How to connect things with your CRM and other tools that you use as well will be the final piece of the puzzle that we'll cover today. So I mentioned that this is a workshop, and I talk about autopilot. So let's define what we're talking about here a little bit when we say putting your business growth on autopilot. When I say putting your business growth on autopilot, here's what I mean. It means equipping your sales team with all of the essential tools they need in order to get deals done quickly. That means the resources that they need, the reference materials, say price lists, customer testimonials, before and after photos, all of that. The contracts themselves, only the approved contracts that you want them to work with, proposals and so forth, the beautiful templates that you've designed. You've turned it into maybe even an interactive PDF or something along those lines. All of those resources and tools, you've got that all digitized and organized, and you've and you've made the process of submitting all of those contracts extremely easy for your field team. The process of accessing their sales materials, extremely easy. The process of extracting data from all of those submitted contracts for your office team, extremely easy and automated. And even the process of submitting those contracts onto, a storage location of your choice or a CRM of your choice, again, making that completely digital, transformational, for your business, for your team members, allowing you to really attract, the younger generation, people that expect you to provide them with mobile tools, digital tools, for them to be able to do their job better. So when we say putting your business on autopilot, this is what we mean. It means no more paper. It means all of your tools syncing and interacting with one another. It means the routing of documents from a sales team to an office team, or vice versa, or to a service team for that matter. It makes all of those things automated and automatic. We want to make it so that your business works without you having to manage manually every step of the process. So this is what we mean when we say putting your business on autopilot. So who is this workshop for? What's the problem that we're working with, and who's this workshop for? It's for all companies that would be considered a contractor in some way. I mentioned this before: HVAC companies, plumbing companies, remodelers of all types, bathrooms, kitchens, what have you, small-scale construction companies that need to do large projects with their customers, whether those are business customers or residential customers. Pest control companies fall under this. Solar companies fall under this category. Any company where you're going to be doing some sort of contracting related work at a job site, and that job site again can be a residence or a business. This is the problem that we hear too often with companies like this, contractors like this. Sales cycles are too long, and salespeople struggle to differentiate the company versus others. The customer experience that salesperson gives them is a manual, outdated system with carbon copy forms and so forth. And as far as running the operation goes, too much of this is manual. That's yet another problem that often happens, is that the ability to bill a customer quickly and accurately is also a secondary problem that we often run into. What does this result in? It means that customers end up choosing the wrong company. If they have a bad experience with your sales team, if they have a bad experience with one of your sales professionals because the experience doesn't feel professional, they're not using professional materials, they're not presenting your company in a professional way, and they're not allowing that customer to have a good customer experience, the impact can be devastating for you. They choose what you would consider to be the wrong contractor. They choose based on price. They choose based on just a relationship. They choose based on which salesperson feels more professional, even if your company is a longer standard company, even if your company is a more professional and experienced company. You lose when this happens. You lose when this happens. So again, we're talking about contractors of all stripes that run into this, not just residential contractors, but business contractors as well. So I want to introduce you to Fluix as a platform for doing this. Really quickly, we're going to get right into the platform that I can show you all of the things that you're capable of doing, but it's important to underline just what type of company you're working with when you're trusting your sales contracts, trusting your project updates, all of that sort of thing. Fluix has been around for about 9 years. We are a subsidiary of a company called Riedel, and our aim is to help you mobilize your team and automate all of your team's sales tasks so they can close deals faster. We're going to equip your installation team, meanwhile, with real ability to submit photos from their project sites in real time, so your service management team and you as a leader are completely up to speed at all times. We've been around, like I said, for 7 to 9 years doing this. We spun off of an award-winning app company called Riedel, based in Europe with customers worldwide. We provide productivity solutions for teams, individuals, and organizations who want to go the next step in digitizing and transforming their companies. And we work with companies with as few as 10 or 15 users out in the field, a handful of salespeople, a few installation representatives, a couple office staff, and maybe use the owner running it all. But we also have customers up to the thousands and thousands of users. So we've been around a long time doing exactly this that you can see on the screen. Now, our platform is a game changer for customers. Absolute game changer. It enables you to do all the things that you can see on screen right now. You can distribute approved contracts to your team, digital versions of those contracts, allows you to sign deals in person on iPads, send contracts for e-signature to your customers, collect and route other paperwork, including daily project reports, sketches, photos from customers' locations, all of that sort of thing. Commission sheets is another popular one that customers use us for. Time off requests, vehicle inspection forms, all of those types of documents. You can route them automatically as well. You can share sales materials and other training materials with your team, and you can connect to your CRM or other storage or other tools, cloud-based software, so that all of these tools are working hand in hand. So this is kind of an overview of what you get when you work with Fluix. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual app experience. What is the experience of using Fluix for the field user? What is the real life, real world experience for using Fluix when you're a salesperson out in the field? What you're looking at now is the Fluix interface on the iOS app within an iPad. If I'm a remodeling salesperson in the field, I need everything at my fingertips in order to be successful. I need to know I have access to everything I want to show a customer, anything I need to sign up a customer with, and Fluix provides the platform to enable all of that. We've got templates for your sales team to fill in the blank when they're getting a job done and they're actually filling out an actual proposal for a customer. You've got documents that can be used for showing customers before and after photos, all of that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do now is go deep in talking you through all of the features and the benefits capable of equipping your sales team so that you can truly put them on autopilot. Let's say you've got a customer face to face, Your salesperson is face-to-face with that customer at their residence right now, and they want to walk them through a sales presentation. They can use Fluix to tap onto the company drive and access all of the resources that you've made available to them. You may have sales materials that are for internal use only. You may have sales materials that are allowed to be shown and used in customer meetings. And Fluix makes it possible for you to distribute those types of documents with them. If I tap on the internal use only, you can see that I can store any number of files. I have just a few samples here. Maybe it's a price list that you've got from one of your manufacturers. Maybe it's some details on how your product or services work, a spec sheet of some kind that you need to show to your customers face to face. Maybe it's instructions that your salesperson needs to have on hand when they're explaining how the service is going to work, how installation is going to work, anything along those lines. These are the types of internal use items that you might want to have available to your salesperson when they're in the field. These documents, if they're just for viewing only, can be anything. They can be presentation files, PowerPoints, they can be Word files, they can be Excel files. Your customer or your salespeople can have any types of files at their disposal for their review. But what if you have other things that you want to show your customers? What if you want to show a customer before and after photos? Show them some of the work that you've done for them in the past. They want to scroll through that. That can be shown in one app. What if you want to show them a customer testimonial video?
My name is Mike Narani.
You can show them that.
Yeah, I chose
right there on the iPad.
Signature Paving because I met Jerry during
So
construction.
they can show the customer one of their happy customer, or one of the more recent happy customers. What if you want to show them a video on what
I just want to take a minute of your time and thank you for scheduling your service with us. As you heard when you called into our office, we do things differently around here at Environmental. Our entire team is committed to delivering a world-class customer.
There's any number of files that you could share with your customers and allow your salespeople to share in real time when they're face-to-face with those customers. PowerPoint presentations, we do have some customers that like to walk a customer step by step through the installation process and what to expect as far as that goes. You can upload a PowerPoint, upload a Keynote, upload a PDF that's got your presentation files as well. That's stored in the company drive. All right, but now it's time to actually start to complete a proposal for the customer. We're going to go to our sales contracts, and maybe you have different teams in different locations, so you have different contracts available to those teams. You can restrict which members of your sales team have access to which contracts at any given time. I'm going to choose this demo version of a remodeling contract. That's just branded with our company. It's a PDF that's been uploaded into Fluix. It's got fillable fields. And the salesperson will simply start going through this process and filling in customer details. Now we're going to put in my name here for now. We'll put in my number. And I won't fill in the entirety of this form, but everything that you can imagine having with your highly customized contract can be filled in. Check boxes, drop downs, fields that calculate, fields that total, fields that are radio buttons so they can make either or choices. All of these things are available. You might also notice as I scroll through this that I've got a signature field in the bottom left corner. When I'm ready to show this to the customer or sign off with the customer, those might be all the signature fields that they're going to need to sign. So in either case, I go through this entire contract with the customer, and if they're ready to sign right now when I'm face to face with them, all the salesperson has to do is tap submit. And in my case, I have an option of signing it in person. So they'll simply choose sign in person. This is obviously after the customer has signed in the proper signature fields. I tap sign in person. I tap confirm. And the completed version of that contract has now been uploaded. It's been sent to my system. It's been sent to my office. The data has been pulled out of it. A copy of it has been sent to the customer. All of those steps with one tap. So for your salesperson, when I talk about putting your business on autopilot, there's not a whole lot of thinking involved. There's not a whole lot of choices to be made. There's one choice. Fill in the form, tap to submit after you've had your customer sign. Now, let's say we've got a different scenario there. Let's say I'm going to fill in this form, this same contract, and when I've gotten to the end of this form, the customer says they're not yet ready to sign. They need to talk with their spouse about things just a little bit more. They need to talk to a partner about it a little bit more. After I filled in this form, on behalf of the customer. I've completed every field within the form. I won't do that now in the interest of time, but again, I can tap submit. I can choose to send it for signature. And now in this case, I'm going to restrict the filling out of the rest of this form to just the signature field alone. So all I want them to do is sign it only. I'm going to put that customer's email address in, and I'm going to write maybe a nice message. I'll forego doing that for right now. I'll choose how long that proposal is valid for. We'll just stick with the standard 4 days. I'm going to add a reminder. If they haven't signed that document 2 days from now, I'm going to send them a daily reminder starting in 2 days until that 4th day has completed. I'll add that here, and now I'm going to send that. So what's happening right now, the customer at that email address is getting a professional email with your logo in it and a link to sign that document. It'll be valid for 4 days, the link, and now I'll be able to track the status of that document here in my sent for signature if I'm the salesperson. I can see that right here I've got a document that was sent for signature at 10:17 a.m., the bottom one on the list there. And the moment this customer signs this contract, it comes right back to me on my mobile my mobile device with a push notification indicating that the document has been signed. Pretty cool. So you have two options there. You can send a contract for signature, or you can sign it in person. In every scenario that I've talked with a remodeling company of any kind, this is sort of the ideal scenario. Sign it in person or sign it remote, but let my salesperson decide, and let them decide in real time, and let them get it done quickly. And let them see the status on that document at any given time. So you'll notice I have a My Inbox, a Templates, My Inbox, and a Company Drive on the left-hand side. These are for convenience in working with documents that have already been processed. In the case of My Inbox, this is where documents that are returned once they've either been signed or declined, or if I've voided a contract. Many remodeling and pest control and HVAC companies that I've spoken to over the years have complicated contracts with a lot of choices that need to be made. And if a customer finds an error within that document or wants to renegotiate some aspect of that document, many times the salesperson has to start from scratch in really refilling that contract out, refilling that document out. Not with Fluix. If the salesperson voids the contract or if the customer declines to sign, in either of those cases, those documents that have been sent for signature return to My Inbox for the person who sent the document for signature. They can then take that document from this inbox here. They can make the edits that the customer requested or that they negotiated and resend that document for signature. Pretty cool. So that's what's available here. Any document that is then returned can be submitted to the office to be reported for sale. If I sign a contract in person with a customer, oftentimes I'm just going to report that sale automatically. If a customer signs a contract remotely, they sign it on their own time, it's going to return to me in my inbox, and then I can report it for sale. When I've done that, those contracts will appear in my completed section. And I, as the salesperson, can see all of the contracts that I have submitted for sale right here in my completed section. I can pull that back up as a reference. I can see all the fields that I filled in that contract. And I have access to it for as long as you, as my account administrator, have given me access to that completed folder. Also pretty cool. I mentioned the push notifications. If a document's been returned to a salesperson, a document has been returned because it was signed, it was voided, it was declined, anything like that, and it appears in my inbox, not only do they get a push notification, but the notification tab up on the top will also indicate any documents that have been pushed to that user. Maybe they're new templates that I can now use, new contract templates, new document templates that I can use for other purposes. Maybe there are other resources that I can now use, like before and after photos, customer testimonials, and so forth. All of those will appear here, and I can clear those notifications out at any given time. Pretty cool. Let's say you have a CRM on your iPad, and your contracts are always created from within that CRM. Or let's say your office team supports your sales team in the field by creating contracts for customers that call in, and the contract gets started by somebody in the office and they need to push it to the salesperson. Any of those processes also work with Fluix, where the salesperson can bring in a contract from another app, whether it's their email or CRM. They can bring that into Fluix and initiate the same sequence I just walked you through for sending a document for signature or for signing it in person. The field experience for salespeople is super easy. We want things to be done with just a couple of taps, not a lot of overwhelm, not a lot of learning curve that's required here. So really, I would tell you that everything centers on the use of templates and the use of the company drive to access the documents that your sales team needs. Templates are fillable documents that need to be submitted and routed somewhere else. Company drive are documents that they need to reference and get access to for whatever reason. Like I said before, showing a customer, internal price list that they need to reference in building a quote, any of those purposes. Really, if you think about it, the essential tools that a salesperson needs in your scenario as a contractor to be successful are they need access to all of the accurate materials to build a quote. They need the form to build the quote. They need access to any proof materials, sales materials that will support the work that they do for customers, all of those things in one tool. And they want to be able to execute the contracts in real time, not fumble for paperwork that then has to be driven back to an office or mailed to an office or scanned and emailed to an office. It can be routed automatically. These are the most essential tools a salesperson needs. Fluix allows them to have access to all of these most essential tools in real time. Now, let's talk about how you can customize things behind the scenes for your company when you're the admin of a Fluix account. What you're now seeing, hello everybody again, what you're now seeing is the admin interface of Fluix. This is where you'll configure things to work exactly the way you want. Now, I'm going to make myself go away here so that you can see a little bit more of the screen. What you're now seeing, again, is the user interface for Fluix. At a quick glance, when I'm looking at the dashboard as an admin user of Fluix, I can see all documents that are being used in real time within our system. Every contract that's signed, any sketch from the field that's been submitted, any project report from actual projects that are underway, anything like that I can see in real time. I can view all documents, and I can see every single document that's been working through my system. In fact, I can click on this checkbox, click on Show History, and I can see the entire life cycle of that document as well. Let's say a document was sent for signature, it was declined, it was sent for signature a second time after being revised. I can see all of those revisions as the sales manager or as the account owner, whomever you give access to, see this sort of broad overview. Pretty neat. I can see all of the different versions that have gone through the process. I can see when it happened. I can see who did it. And I can even download that file if I needed to. So that's the bird's eye view that you have when you're viewing on the dashboard level. When you get into the configuration screen of Fluix, this is where you set things up. This is where you set up all of your automation rules. And one of the things that I love most about our company's product with Fluix, with the platform, is the ability to set things up one time and be done with it. Then the platform just works. So you'll manage your users here. You can place those managers in specific groups: sales team, IT, office staff, installation team, your service manager, your sales manager, whatever groups you want to use, and people can be in more than one groups. It's very common that we work with pest control companies or remodeling companies that have teams in different regions, different offices, sometimes different states. When that's the case, they may have different contracts they need to use. They may have different work processes, different office staff that they need to interact with. When that's the situation, it's important to have your team members grouped properly so you can route documents to the right person and allow them to transmit documents to the right person in their office. So that's where the groups are managed. When I use Fluix for remodeling, I keep my documents in Dropbox. Fluix provides free storage as well, and we're very generous with how much storage you have as part of your accounts. But in this case, I've got all of my documents being routed from and to Dropbox. Every template is stored in Dropbox, so if I ever want to add a new template, I literally just drag that to my folder on my desktop, and every new signed contract gets pushed automatically to a separate folder within Dropbox. You can connect Dropbox, you can connect Box, you can connect Google Drive, you can connect OneDrive or SharePoint or some other tool. You can connect those, and that's just a one-time task that somebody on your team needs to take. We can help you do that. Once you've connected it, that doesn't automatically give anybody on your team access to the files you have in Dropbox. The final step of the process that makes Fluix sort of magical is the creation of workflows. And you can see in this case, I've just got a handful of workflows. I've got 7 of them, and each workflow is designed to automatically route a document, to distribute a document, and then automatically route that document when it's submitted, and they may have different use cases. So for example, I've got a workflow just for salespeople to submit commission sheets. I've got a workflow for the installation team to submit daily project reports if they're working on a remodeling project that spans 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and I want to get a daily report on what's going on there with photos. I've got one just for people to be able to submit photos only. I've got a workflow for sales contracts. Where do I want those contracts to be routed? And I'm going to go into more detail in this way in just a minute. I've got workflows for sharing documents with my sales team that they cannot process and submit somewhere else. And then I've even got a workflow to allow people to submit sketches. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. Let's talk about sales contracts, because this is where the real automation and power for you from a revenue standpoint comes into play. This might look intimidating at first, but I want to say a couple things about this. Every software has a learning curve. Every software takes a little bit of time to just figure out how to make things work and configure them. One of the things that we're most proud of with Fluix is the amount of time it takes to deploy the solution, to get up to speed and have a working platform or a working configuration of Fluix, and the amount of time it takes your field team to get used to it. It's extremely fast. Once you've gone through maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of onboarding, you'll know exactly how to create a workflow that does some pretty sophisticated things. So let's talk about what this workflow has been configured to do so you can see and get a glimpse of what some of the options are for putting your business on autopilot. If I were to click on edit here, you can see there's a lot of moving parts here, but it's actually really easy to set up. I've got 4 participants of this workflow: the sales team, the office staff, sales manager, and a service manager. As far as the sales team goes, my workflow is configured to allow the sales team to pull contracts from this folder in Dropbox. They can also pull contracts from other apps on their iPad. Again, that could be a CRM, or it could be a contract that was emailed to them by the office team. Once they've pulled that document into the app on their iOS device, the sales team has one of 2 options the way I've configured my workflow. If they sign the deal in person, this is the series of steps that will happen automatically just by tapping the word sign in person. That's all they do. Or they can choose to send a document for signature. So if the customer is ready to sign in person, the salesperson would fill in your form, all of the fields, your customer would sign in the signature field, and the salesperson would tap the submit button in their Fluix iPad app. That one tap of the submit button on their iPad app initiates 4 different actions. The first one is that the completed contract is uploaded to Dropbox into a specified folder. The second is that a copy of the contract is sent as an attachment to an email to either a pre-configured email address, that's my email address, or you can allow the salesperson to add recipients to that email address. With this step, I've also chosen to have all of the data extracted from the fillable fields on that PDF into a new contracts data set. And the final step of the process here in my case is that I've got the completed data also pushing to a third-party CRM. In my case, it's also pushing via a service called Zapier, which is a third-party software that allows you to route data, route documents, trigger actions from one software into another software if those 2 software don't have direct integrations built in. So some of the ways that we know our remodeling friends have used Fluix to connect, you can connect Fluix via tools like Lead Perfection. You can connect to Job Nimbus, something along those lines. And in some cases, you can direct directly to those tools to route your new contracts or the data from your contracts, or you can connect through a service like Zapier. Zapier has a free plan, and then they additionally have paid plans as well. You may choose to simply keep it simple and upload to a folder, send a contract by email, extract the data, something along those lines. The point is you have the power here to configure the routing of documents exactly the way you want, and once you've set it once, the salesperson doesn't have to worry about any of this. They simply tap a submit button. The other rules that I have in place down here allow me to get a little bit more advanced with how I do things. So I have the My Inbox configured here because sometimes the customer is not ready to sign in person. When that's the case and you've sent a document to the customer for signature and they decline it, or you have voided it as the salesperson, it's going to return to their inbox, that salesperson's inbox. They can then resend it for signature after making edits, or they can go back out to the customer face-to-face and sign in person, which has a similar workflow that you saw before. The reason you see a report sale listed here is if I signed it before with the customer in person, or sorry, if I had the customer actually sign it when I sent it to them for signature to begin with, it's also going to return to my inbox, and I can trigger a report of the sale workflow as well, where the document is routed correctly, sent to the office person as an FYI about the contract, and all the data is extracted and so forth. So that's the salesperson's configuration. These other configurations for the office staff, for the sales manager and the service manager, these are very simple steps that simply allow them to have access to see all of the contracts going through at any given time. And what's really cool about the way that you can use Fluix is you can allow any of these team members, or none of them, if you want to restrict things, you can allow them to have access to these contracts not just when they're sitting at their desk. They can pull up the Fluix mobile app on their iPhones or iPads, and through the company drive, they can see all of the signed contracts. Again, because this is secure, you may not want to give everybody access to this. Maybe you only want you as the owner or you as the sales manager to have access to this. But you can have on-the-go access to all signed contracts without having to navigate through your CRM and get complicated, tap on find the customer, all of that. You've got a running total of all the contracts. So a lot of power in how you build your workflows, a lot of oversight into what you can do with your workflows. So I'm going to click Save and Publish here. And I'm going to show you one other really cool thing about this. Now, I showed that you have, as the admin of your account, you have sort of a high-level access to all documents that are moving through your system at any given time. But we do have remodeling customers and pest control customers who, as I said, have 20, 25 different locations, and so they have a different workflow for each of those locations to route their contracts. So they only want to see the contracts that are moving for that one team or location or office or something like that. Well, what you can do in that case is navigate to that workflow, click on Document Status, and you can see all the contracts just associated with just this one workflow. Not all of your workflows, including the other locations, just this one workflow. So for example, if I wanted to see the full history of this contract, I can see that it was initially taken at 10:15 on March 31st. It was renamed automatically, taken into draft mode by this user on my account. And they must have signed the deal in person because the document was completed entirely, and it routed up to my folder on Dropbox. A copy was emailed to my office person, the data was extracted, and it was also submitted to my third-party CRM. So all of those steps happened all in real time within 1 minute. But let's say I want to see, oh, that pulled up the actual document itself. Well, actually, that's a good point. So if I wanted to see the finished contract itself, I can simply click on it, and now I can't make edits to it, but now I can see the finished version of that contract. All right, but some of these other documents, I might just want to see deals that are underway. So now I can see that there's a workflow stage of sent for signature. So these are contracts that have not been signed yet, but they have been sent for signature. So I can click on either one of these. This is one from a couple weeks ago. I can see the actual document that was submitted itself, and I can see that it's not yet signed. But if I wanted to see the document history on that one, I can click on that, see Show History, and I can see, okay, this is interesting. So this one, a contract was pulled up. It was taken by this user. It was taken into draft mode and edited. It was sent to a recipient for signature. That recipient received it. They declined to sign it. I can see that listed here. So it returned to the user. They took it and they resubmitted again for a new signature. Now, ignore the fact for just a minute that you're seeing a couple different email addresses there. The key really here, this is just a demo account, but the key really here to notice is that I can see the full document history. I can see every version of the document. I can download any of those versions. I can see who the document was emailed to, and I can see what that customer did with that document, the full history. Now, we realize that sometimes some of these document histories might be a little bit sensitive or secure or private. So you can restrict who has access to these document histories. Maybe the only people that you want to see the document history without making any revisions to it, obviously, because that's an important part of the security piece, is you want your sales team to see the document history. You want your office staff to see the document history, but that's all that you want them to do. You don't want to give them admin access to see everything. Really neat thing about Fluix that you can do in the configuration steps is you can create a role. That role allows you to assign specific people with higher level permissions or higher level privileges than your typical user. So in this case, Andrew Stone and Julia Slusarenko have document history permissions, so they can see all documents that have been submitted in the system to see what the history of those documents are. And maybe you have an office team that not only needs to see the history of all documents that are going through, but you need them to be able to push a document to a specific user. That's a little bit more of an advanced use case. We won't cover that in this workshop, but you do have the ability to, in a one-off way, push an updated contract to somebody. So an office person gets a phone call from a customer and the office person partially fills in the contract, but the rest of it needs to be filled in by the salesperson. The office person can partially fill in that contract, push the document to the salesperson, and then the salesperson finishes up that workflow that I showed you before of signing in person or sending for signature. So that's what the roles feature allows you to do. Workflows are really cool because you can do so many different things. Sometimes the process might be really simple. Sometimes the process might be really comprehensive. We have one customer that likes to have a workflow where their salespeople can submit commission sheets whenever they sign a new deal, and those commission sheets don't need to be routed in the same way as a contract is routed. So a commission sheet submission might look something like this, where the document, the template for the commission sheets is pulled down from Dropbox. The salesperson fills it in, they tap the submit button, they don't have to rename it, they don't have to attach it to an email, none of those things. They literally just tap that big blue submit button you saw in the iOS app, and it's automatically uploaded to a commission sheets folder, and the data is extracted. I'm going to get the data being extracted in just a moment. So pretty cool stuff here that you can do. You can see that it's not just about contracts, it's fully automating all of the growth-related issues that sometimes get tedious, that sometimes are manual, that sometimes results in people following up with other people, texting them, emailing them, calling them, saying, hey, what's the status? Have you seen that contract? Did you get notification on it? Hey, did you get my latest commission sheet that I uploaded? There's no more back and forth on what's going on with a document. It's all automated with full notifications, whether those are email notifications or in-app notifications. Your team is updated at all times, and you as an owner or as a manager have oversight over all of this at all times with just a little bit of upfront configuration, literally done on the first day, and then the rest of the time is spent learning about advanced configurations you can do. All right. So this is an important part of how you can not only automate for your field team and automate things for you as an owner, but what about that part that I mentioned about data, about connecting with the CRM? One of the things that you might have noticed when I was on the sales contracts workflow was the extract data and the submit by HTTP. I've already explained that the submit by HTTP, really what this means is it's uploading either the document or the values from the fields of that document to another third-party cloud-based software. Many cloud-based software have APIs, and those APIs allow you to send data to them so that they can pull it into their systems. A lot of CRM allow this, and other tools allow this as well. So that is what this is allowing you to do, is connect to your CRM, assuming your CRM has its own API and can connect, or assuming your CRM can connect to a service like Zapier. The extract data feature is really cool if you have a little bit of an outdated CRM or one that's not cloud connected and you want to make the process for your office team of billing the customer that much faster. Extract data basically means that every time one of these contracts is submitted, all of the fields within that document are extracted out and put into what's called a data set. A data set is just what you might think. It's all of the data fields from the document. Now, sometimes you might want all of those data sets just for sort of an archive, but other times you might need just the billing data in order to copy and paste that data into your accounting software to create an invoice or a down payment bill for your customer. So let's take a quick look at data sets. I've got my new contracts data set. And when I click on that, you'll notice I have a couple of options that suddenly appear here. I have the ability to download all of this data. I have submitted this contracts for this data set 9 times. I can submit, or I can download all of these submissions as an Excel file. If I click that, you'll notice I get a quick notification, and boom, instantly the Excel file is downloaded to my computer. I can download it as a CSV file. Same thing happens really quickly. If you are a little bit more advanced and you're using visualization tools like Power BI, like Tableau, you can actually export that data in real time every time it's submitted by using these credentials with Power BI and Tableau. But let's say I only need, like I said, a subset of that data. I don't need all the data from that fillable field. It might be a 15-page or 20-page contract, but really for the accounting purposes, I just need a handful of those materials. Well, you can use this customize feature here. What the customize feature lets you do is to create a subset of data, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I submitted this contract. I actually have 2 different contracts that I've used with this data set, and they're slightly different looking contracts. So what this allows me to do is select the fields visually even. We've kind of dummy proofed it. You can select the fields visually that you need to extract instead of selecting all of these fields. I really just need the service total, and I need the billing details. So the fields in yellow are the fields that appear on the right-hand side, and those will be extracted into their own subset every time that document or every time that workflow is triggered. But you'll notice over here, I have a couple contracts that are named differently. Well, that's because I have different contracts. So this is one contract that pulls data into that data set, and this is another contract that I use, but it's pulling data into the same data set, same basic information. Customer name, address, city, state, zip, phone, email, zip. So all of that data is being submitted each time one of these contracts, it doesn't matter which contract is being submitted, only select data is being pulled out from that data. I'm going to discard that. And you can see I can export that data and download that data separately from the large data set. Extremely powerful. The difference between your office team having to look at a piece of paper contract and retype that information into QuickBooks or your accounting software versus being able to copy and paste it out of Excel, I can't be understated. Now, having said that, I will tell you that if you do use the API tool, not only can you route your documents and your data to CRM, you can route documents and data to certain cloud-based accounting software as well. For example, QuickBooks has a product called QuickBooks Online. You can actually route the data from your contracts straight over, your new contracts, signed deals, straight over into QuickBooks Online. And that is, again, in that configuration step of a workflow, that submit via HTTP. So really cool. You have a lot of control over what you're doing with your documents and your data at any given time. I've shown you one scenario, and it's a pretty complicated scenario with that workflow for new contracts. Yours doesn't have to be this complicated. Yours can be much more simple than this. It doesn't have to be sign in person, can only be send for signature. You can eliminate the ability to send for signature. And likewise, underneath the options, you have one or more options that you can make available. I've made it really, really cool and neat for my team whenever they sign a deal in person to have 4 things happen automatically. The salesperson doesn't need to know all 4 of these things are happening. All they're doing is tapping the sign in person. But I know that when they choose that sign in person, all 4 of these things are happening. So a lot of control over how things are done, a lot of control over how restrictive things are. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot about this, because salespeople do sometimes come and go, and you might have to make changes with your team, is how secure is Fluix? How can I have really tight control over what people can do with Fluix? I don't want them to be able to pull contracts out of here and do anything they want with it. I want them to have to use our contracts and our customer testimonial videos or any of these documents within Fluix. Well, you have that capability with our security settings. So you'll notice right down here we have 3 settings: security, file sharing, and email notifications. In my case with file sharing, I have all of my options enabled. I'm allowing a salesperson, or a user, I should say, of Fluix on their mobile app to be able to use the share icon that you've seen in a lot of apps on iPads and iPhones, to use the share icon to pull documents out of Fluix, or to do any number of things, to pull it out of Fluix and attach it to an email, to print it from within Fluix, to open it in another app in Fluix, like a PDF editor or something along those lines, to copy or export certain files, or to copy and extract or delete certain pages. So I have all of those enabled, but you may choose that your security settings need to be much higher and you want to deselect these options so nobody can ever pull a document out of Fluix. You may choose to allow that to be restricted. The other thing that I would tell you is that you can make things as strict for your employees as you like as well. You have a lot of options for how long your team can use their iPads when they're offline, for example. Fluix can be used. All of the features I showed you work when a user is offline. Obviously, the document will not transmit when they're offline, but the document can be used when they're offline, and they can queue the document to be sent the next time their iPhone or iPad is online. But you can determine how long they're able to work offline. You can require two-factor authentication, so a user can't, an admin cannot log in to your Fluix account without two-factor authentication. They'll get a text, for example, and they'll have to confirm with the code. You can choose that completed documents only remain on a user's iPad for a certain amount of time. I won't go over all these things, and you can even make password complexity really strong. If at any given time a person leaves your company, you can delete them as a user and they instantly lose access to Fluix. Likewise, if you add a user to Fluix and add them to a group, and that group already has workflows that it's a participant of, then they will immediately have those documents pushed to them on their iPad or their iPhone to be able to access. All right. Last piece of the puzzle that I want to talk about when it comes to putting the business growth part of your business on autopilot. I've talked a lot about the mobile solution and your sales team and what they can do when they're on the go, face-to-face with customers. But a lot of salespeople are not face-to-face with customers right now. They're having to work from their desks, their home offices, that sort of thing. They don't have to pull up their iPad to use Fluix for sending contracts. When they log into Fluix in our website, when they go to fluix.io and choose the login button, this is what they will see right here. A streamlined browser-based version of what they saw on the iPad app. They will not have these options up here unless you've given them higher level privileges. They'll simply have the folders that you saw before. So I can bring up a contract. There's my contract. I can now fill in this contract for the customer, start typing each of these fields, tap the submit button, and I can send for signature. Or I can choose to sign it in. I'm not going to sign those in person, but I may choose to send that for signature for a customer. And I only want them to sign it, not fill in the rest of the fields. So you can allow your sales team to also use Fluix in the browser. They don't have to just use this on the mobile app. Same thing with your Office team. There's no Windows app, there's no Mac app, there's nothing like that for them to have to install. They would simply log into Fluix in the browser, and then they would have full access to everything that I just showed you for processing any of their templates and for accessing some of their files as well. They can see the status on documents they have sent for signature. You can see it's waiting for a signature, and here's the name of that document. They can even click on it to view that document. Documents that they completed, like I showed you before on the iPad app. So these are all the documents that I have submitted previously. They still have access to all of those things. All right, that's it for your growth team. That's it for putting your business growth team on autopilot, and you as well. Let's talk for just a minute about going a step beyond that. You know, we've talked about the importance of your sales team being able to sign deals wherever they are, and it's completely paperless, it's mobile, you have complete control over the templates, all of that sort of thing, and that's great. We've talked a little bit about the forms and how you can bring your existing forms, however complicated they may be, with JavaScript embedded in them or what have you, or you can work with our team to design professional forms. There's also freelance PDF form designers out there that you can work with. So we've talked a little bit about each one of these things, and we've talked about it being more than just being used for contracts. We've talked about sharing documents with your sales team that they can use as part of the sales process. But what if you want to go one step further? What if you want to go one step further and have some daily reporting on what's going on with your projects? What if you want to have access and you want your team, once they've got a project underway, the deal's been sold and your installation team is going to be at a customer's location for the next 2 weeks. You want some sort of progress. This is definitely the case with large-scale remodeling and absolutely the case with large contractors. So going a step beyond automation with your growth, you want to also automate what's going on with the existing projects. Let's say, for example, you want your field team to submit a daily project report. It's very fast, very simple. It'll take them 30 seconds to fill in, but it gives you the reassurance of what's going on, or it gives you the kind of the insight of what's going on any given day at your projects. You can use Fluix for this type of process as well. So this is a daily project report. I just created this with our own form builder within our platform, but you can have one designed. You can design it yourself and bring it into Fluix as a PDF. This project report simply asks some basic details. What's the name of the project, the date, who's submitting the form, and what are some basic details, yes or no, about what's going on in the site that day. One of the project leaders can add a couple of images, may choose a photo from the library. Okay, this is the remodeling project that we're working on. Let me add that photo. Let me add this photo. I'm going to fill in the project name is the Hull Residence Project. This is the date it's happening. It's happening today. Brandon is the person submitting it. And yes, everything here happened the way we wanted it to. All the employees showed up for work that day. We had all the materials we needed. Any deliveries we were anticipating were good to go. We cleaned up at the end of the day, and I notified the customer that we were leaving for the day. All of that's been done. So I don't have any additional notes that I need to share. I tap submit. Done. I've reported on that project. So you as an owner, without having to drive to the project, without having to call your team, without having to check in, text, email, anything like that, you can get that daily report sent to you and know exactly what's going on that project. So I, as the person who submitted it, will have access to my my documents. There's my project reports. There's the submitted project reports that I've sent in. And you, as the manager on the go, or you as the owner, will have access to all of those project reports as well. When we talk about automation, we're not talking about just the obvious things. We're talking about the big things as well. We're talking about the less obvious that are still tedious, that still take time. Those things should be streamlined and automated as well. Now, you'll notice I've had a couple of other documents in here that might be kind of interesting. I've got a project report in here. Oops, I've got a sketches document in here as well. Let's say you just really want, you're communicating with a team in the field and they just really want to sketch out for you something that they're working on. You can provide your team with a simple sketch template. They can use an Apple Pencil or use their finger, use the annotation tools that you see on the right-hand side, and sketch out something that they're encountering at this customer's location. So they want to, you want to allow them to start sketching this out. Okay, this is 32 feet. And this is 18 feet, and they're going to write their note here. They write that here, or maybe you don't want them to have to use an Apple Pencil. They just type that note in, or they can insert a comment wherever you like and use the commenting feature. You can enable this kind of behavior as well with your team. So I didn't date that one, but I have given my team the ability to submit a sketch from the field as well. They can share it with a specific person, and they're going to choose one of the other users that is going to get that document from me along with a note. See, check out sketch attached. I've now reassigned responsibility for that sketch to one of my colleagues. They'll get a push notification on their iPad app if they're an iPad user or an iPhone user, and they'll get an email notification if it's been configured to do so, telling them that they now have responsibility for that document that's been pushed to them. They can choose to comment on that document or on that sketch and push it right back to me. They can upload it to a file. They have all kinds of options I can configure as well. So Fluix, when I say automation, I'm talking about going beyond your obvious tasks, going beyond just the things about, distributing sales contracts to your team and letting them submit it from there. You can route documents in any way with Fluix. You can route documents for any purpose within Fluix. We do have customers that are also having their field team submit timesheets. We have them submitting vehicle inspection reports. We have them submitting incident reports if they get in a car accident or if there's an injury. We have them submitting employee COVID-19 checks where they're submitting and signing off that they don't exhibit any symptoms of COVID-19 today. You can't see these employees face to face, but you can be in the loop on how they're feeling, how things are going, and so forth. Similarly, those are submissions from the team. What if you simply need to push out to your team safety and health policies? What if you want to push out paperwork that you need them to be able to reference besides sales paperwork? You can do the same thing, and they would access those files within the company drive. So besides these 3 folders here, you may have folders for health and safety policies. You may have policies here on the use of company vehicles. You may have policies here on requesting time off. Any number of instructions that you may need to just push to employees or select employees, this is where they would access them. All right, we've covered a lot. We're coming up on the close of our workshop today. I've tried to be as hands-on and give you a good tour of Fluix as much as I can, so you can see how certain aspects of your work can be absolutely automated in the easiest way. The last thing that I want to highlight is this issue of user acceptance. You know, we run across a lot of companies that have field sales or field service, field installation teams or team members who are very seasoned and are not very technically savvy. They're not used to using technology. Maybe they have an iPhone. You've issued them an iPad, but they're actually not very well versed in using technology along those lines. I will tell you that Fluix has exceptional user acceptance. We have users that are using our iPad on offshore wind turbines to do inspections. We have them at construction sites in remote, desolate locations, and that collaboration, that ability to get things done quickly when the weather is adverse, when the person is not necessarily technical adverse, is important to us. The ability to get work done in an automated way. You notice when you saw the mobile iOS app that it's got one blue button for submitting, and then maybe one option after that, although that's optional. The idea with Fluix is that it never takes more than 2 or 3 taps on an iPad to get work done, to access the file that you need, or to submit the file once you've submitted it, or once you've filled in that form, if it's a fillable form. This is very important to us. That user acceptance is a big part of deploying Fluix. We're proud of the fact that it's often the case with a contractor that we can deploy Fluix, we can set things up and configure Fluix within a matter of a day. We can do a test with the point of contact, the owner or an office manager that we put in contact with. We can work with them over the course of a day or so to do some onboarding. And then within a week, you can be onboarded with dozens of team members. It's very common that deployment is super fast with us. We're hands-on with the way that we operate so that user acceptance is there. We want to make sure that you, as the admins of the account, know what you're doing, but also your team in the field feels comfortable with it as well. The idea is less manual effort. Automation, it can be your absolute friend. And that is really what the competitive edge with Fluix is. We're best in class with service and implementation consulting, lightning fast deployment. You've already seen that there's no custom software required. There's no custom software development required. If you want to integrate tools, there's a little bit of integration work that you have to do sometimes there. It's very common for us to help our customers with that integration process, or for them to enlist a friend or somebody who knows the IT connections that need to happen. It doesn't require technical knowledge on your part or your user's part to set up or to use Fluix in an ongoing way. All right, that's Fluix in a nutshell. That's how to put your business growth on autopilot. We're glad that you had a chance to get acquainted with Fluix. Thanks for watching the workshop today. And listen, if you have any questions about Fluix, we hope you reach out to us at sales@fluix.io. Just by watching this workshop, just by virtue of watching and participating in this workshop, we're willing to give you 10% off your first 6 months of Fluix. But you have to mention this workshop. You've got to reach out to our team. Again, that's a huge savings if you're deploying to a team of 30 or 40 or 50 across your team and you have advanced features that you need. Rest assured that we're here to help you set things up and to make the most of your Fluix time. It's kind of like riding a bike. If you have somebody who's nudging you along the way, it may seem hard at first, but that person nudging you along the way can make the process easy. And from there, you can use it without a whole lot of deep thought. So thanks for participating in our workshop today. Thanks for getting acquainted with Fluix. We encourage you to start a new trial. Reach out to our sales team so we can help you configure it. We can set up a one-to-one walkthrough and a configuration and onboarding session with you. But you got to reach out to us. Sales@fluix.io. Visit us at fluix.io/saleshub if you want to see a recap of all of these things that you can do to use Fluix to automate your sales team. Thanks again for the workshop time today, everybody. We hope this is fruitful for you, and we look forward to working with you one-on-one.